What's up, guys? My name is Emerson, your favorite manic and melanated photographer.
Hey, this is Alex, or you can call me Peach, your local content creator and fruit enthusiast.
And welcome to the Phot-Bros Podcast. This is your go-to show for advice and experiences for content creators from two local photographers from the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. We also have our producer Shane and our writer Juliet. Now let's dive right in.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I had dry lips. That's on me. Okay, now I'm good. Is that when I have dry lips, I gotta start. Next time I'm gonna bring chapstick. So, all right. Welcome to Jesus Christ Hotline. Emerson, you are live.
What's up, and welcome to episode 5. Yep.
Emerson, tell me, how are you doing today? We were on a bit of a hiatus, weren't we?
I'm very tired. Just to give everybody some context, we were at a film festival party yesterday.
Yeah.
With our fellow hoes, Phot-Hos.
And the bros.
And the bros had to make an appearance. And we actually have an honorary Phot-Bro with us today.
Yes, we do.
Our boy Amir.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, so Amir is another member of the Phot-Hos, and he's been there for I think it feels like 7 years to me. How long have you actually? How long have we been? How long have you been part of the Hos?
Actually, 4 years since 2019.
It's been 4 years.
Yes.
Dang, I was late to the party.
No, I thought you were. No, I really thought you were there since the very beginning. Like,
no, because I believe my very first meet with them was at Sunflower Field, or
that was
not. It was, I think it was Apple Orchard or something like that.
Oh, okay. I thought you were at the Sunflower Field. That was my first time.
Oh, okay.
That was my first time.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's okay. That's interesting. Huh. I thought you were there the whole time, but all right. But still, that's pretty good to know. Wow. So, welcome to the Phot-Bros Podcast. Now we're going to talk about another topic today, a very special topic that not a lot of people, I would say, you can prove me wrong if you want, but I think it's very underrated part of photography, but it's also very, well known in the world of business. And that is real estate photography. Something very, 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 I guess the right word is intricate,
useful, and essentially mandatory for the real estate business.
Wow.
Yeah. Very essential. Yeah. Because it's a great way to just put yourself out there and also market like the different houses for all the agents out there and anyone who's actually willing to purchase a house in this economy.
Yeah, this economy is pretty bad right now. And these interest rates. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Hi.
I work in real estate, so I hear a lot of things from my agents that I help manage their business, and it's bad.
Yeah. I dabble, so I'm not too familiar with this. So luckily we have two experts over here, Emerson
I'm not an expert, but
not with the photography part, but with real estate, like that house is like $1,200 or something like that.
I can look at a house and pretty much kind of estimate the price just based on the current market right now. Yeah.
Yeah. But he's got the whole visual side, like the whole creative side.
I'm really looking forward to hearing all the information you got today, man. Big time.
Looking forward to sharing.
Yeah.
Sweet. Now we shall get into it. Now, first things first, what's very important, equipment and gear. Something we should like to dive into first in order to understand what Amir has to go through on a daily basis or whenever it comes, like you have to do your stuff. And so it's important to dive into how, Amir gets into the whole real estate photography and videography sessions. So Amir, tell me, you brought some equipment and gear with you today.
Yes.
What exactly do you use? Like whenever it comes to...
I cannot wait to hear this.
Yeah, to when it comes to all those real estate shoots.
Right. So when you're doing a real estate shoot, right, the 3 basic tools you need: a camera, a wide angle lens, and a tripod.
Awesome.
So I have my camera here. This is a Sony a7R III. It's a high resolution 42 megapixel camera. And this is pretty much what I use for all of my real estate shoots. And what I have attached to it is a Sigma 14 to 24.
I love those Sigma lenses.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, like they're very affordable, and they perform just about as good as any first-party lens. So yeah, definitely Sigma, Tamron, that you can never go wrong with those.
Amazing.
Yep. And so, so as I was saying, this is a 14-24 because one of the most important aspects of real estate photography is to capture the space like as wide as you can. Because, which is a bit different from, let's say, portraiture where you are focusing mostly on the model itself, right? Well, with real estate photography, you want to basically capture everything. And so that's where a wide angle lens comes into play.
And these are like all the essentials, right? Like for you, like, so you do a lot of photography, but do you ever do videos when it comes to actually showing the house? Like, like the whole thing, or I guess even specifically the interior?
I basically do right now previews of homes like with video, basically like doing walkthroughs of them. I'm dabbing more into video in the sense of actually showcasing things like highlights, exteriors, interiors. I'm basically trying to develop that as a product for like 2-minute reels, things like that.
Nice.
Now, excuse me for acting like a child here, but what is that?
Oh, this is a flash. Oh, yeah, so pretty much flashes. Yep. Yeah, so flash
is a flash. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a little double take for a minute.
Yep. So flashes are a very important tool for real estate photography. I know not everyone might use a flash, but they can come in handy, especially for certain scenarios, or especially if a room is dark for whatever reason. Because sometimes if you go into a property, it might not have a lot of natural light coming through, or you might not have any artificial light sources in certain rooms. So having a flash is always good to have. So yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. And that's actually very important. Yeah. Although when it comes to like shooting the rooms, to make sure there's a good amount of light in the whole room, do you just depend on that flash, or do you use any other types of like strobes or any other type of studio type of flash? And in addition, do you also use any reflectors, or do you just depend on like the walls, especially if they're white?
So basically what I do is for most of my real estate photography, I actually use an HDR process.
Interesting.
Which if you're not familiar with that, how you do it with real estate photography is that you put the camera and lens on a tripod, you hold it still, and you take different bracketed shots at different exposure levels.
Oh, wow.
Usually about 2 stops apart. I like to do 5 different shots of like the same angle. And then what you do is you then use a certain software like Lightroom, Photoshop, Photomatix to blend them all together. And what's great about that is that doing that HDR blending allows you to pull out information from both shadows and highlights to help create a more evenly balanced photo. And in certain cases, right, you can also use flash, which usually I would say gives off the best results. Because just for an example, right, you might have certain situations where, you're going into a house and you see the lights and you notice that all the lights have like different colors, or they're like very orange. And if you usually take a photo, with that light cast and you look back at it, right, even if you do white balancing, you might notice different like color casts all over like ceilings, walls, and whatnot. And what's handy with a flash, especially if you're using an off-camera flash that you point up to the ceiling, you're basically bouncing off a neutral point, because most ceilings tend to be white, right? Yeah. So when you're bouncing the light off of the ceiling, then that white light basically then comes onto the scene, and it helps to drown out those ugly like color casts. So usually if I'm noticing a situation where, the lights are just very orange, or like the photo is just going to look like orange, yellow, or whatnot, then I'll pull out a flash, do a basic ambient shot that would provide like a even exposure. Then I'll take out the flash and then do a shot with it pointing up at the ceiling, where the ceiling then bounces light back into the scene. And
so much I'm learning right now.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
It's wow.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking to at some point replace that, because what I've noticed is that it's less time that you have to spend in post-production, because with HDR, since you don't really have that light, bouncing off, since you're just doing bracketed shots, sometimes you have to manually go in, select like ceilings or select certain things and do like manual saturation adjustments. So it can take time, especially if it's a photo with like a lot of color cast. But with the flash technique, which by the way, they usually call it flambient in the real estate photography industry, right?
Flambient?
Flambient, yeah, because it's where you take your ambient shot that's evenly exposed, and then you take the flash shot. So it's like flash, ambient together, and you get flambient.
Oh, sounds like
Interesting.
Sounds like flamboyant to me.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess you could say, it gives you very flamboyant results in a sense.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, because it helps, to remove the color cast, and it also helps to preserve color accuracy with furniture. Because especially if you have, let's say, an agent who stages a property, right? They might want certain colors to stay intact. So that's where having that flash to bounce off the ceiling really helps to preserve all like the accurate colors.
It's nice. And but is that specifically if the walls and everything, they're all white, right? Like what if someone colored it? Like let's say it's a dark green or a blue and whatever. Like that, would that affect the light in some way? Or do you have to like readjust something in order to make sure, the light is reflected well?
Right. Well, I guess it depends, because I know with a room that's mostly neutral, especially even if you're just doing like HDR, then you don't really have to deal with many color casts, especially if the lights are relatively like all white, because you're having like different light that's bouncing off of neutral points. So there isn't really a lot to correct in those situations. But yes, if let's say you're in a room and you see, oh, this room has red walls or blue walls, right? And especially if you have natural light coming through, bouncing off of the walls, then you might start noticing that the light from those walls will start bouncing around like on the ceiling. And then that's where you start to see those color casts.
Yeah.
And then with the flash, right, if you use it, then that essentially helps to eliminate that, because the white like point of like the ceiling at that point is the main source of lighting.
See, this
I'm
is like
speechless.
I know this is like there's so much to take in whenever it comes to or to know and when it comes to doing real estate. Like I dabble with it at one point, but I'm like, damn, this sucks. Like not the actual thing, but like the photos I took, and maybe even the whole thing. But yeah, it's because like I don't know, like it's just like I like to like shoot like nature or people and all that. But like with houses, it's just something like I don't know. It's like so much to take in because you're inside. Right. And then it's like the whole thing is a subject, not one little thing in a little small space. And that's what really like just gets to me. It just baffles me too. It's crazy to just think about. All right. So you told us a lot about the inside workings. Now, so how about capturing the outside? Like every house is different.
Right.
Right. And then but you also have like the shed, you have the backyard, you got the front yard, you got all the sides of the house, the top of it. Like, so how do you work on that, or how do you deal with that?
Right. So when it comes to exteriors, you basically have to work with what you have, because there isn't really a lot you can do in terms of like, you can't exactly, let's say like move the sun's angle, to get the optimal lighting, because I guess usually you can ask an agent, hey, do you know where the sun might shine at a certain point in time? But that's usually a hassle to do, and it's usually best just to work with what you can at that moment.
That's true.
So I know with exteriors, one thing you want to try to avoid if you can is to avoid shooting directly into the sun, because then that's where you get your glare.
Oh yeah, like sometimes like I don't know. For us, I know glares, they're either beneficial or it sometimes just destroys the whole thing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, for real estate photography, glare is a no-go. So
like ever.
Yeah. So I mean, of course, depending on the time of day you're shooting, you probably can't really avoid it. So, you could shoot as best as you can and go into Photoshop, Lightroom to try to make certain edits to remove or adjust glare if you have to. One of my key tenets of shooting exteriors essentially is to do things like shoot the front door, get at least 3 different angles of the front of the house, get 3 different angles of the back of the house, and then get a few of the yard space.
Perfect. That sounds perfect.
That's wow.
Yeah.
And you definitely want to shoot as wide as possible, because especially if you have a house that it's on like a massive lot, because I've done quite a few homes where you have this smaller house and it's like surrounded by acres and acres of land. So that's when you definitely want to go back and do some shots where you can just capture just about everything you can, right? So if it has like a huge backyard, go all the way to the back, shoot towards the house, show off just how expansive it is, because agents love to emphasize the size of their properties, and
that's true.
The larger that you can make it look, the happier they will be.
Although, does it ever? I mean, that's still interesting to me, because you obviously you want to make everything look bigger. I guess.
Right.
Yeah, you do your best to make sure you make that appear on like the website. If there's any prints out there for like putting it out in the mail and all that, like you want to make sure all that's just really, I don't know, luxurious, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to make a $200,000 home look like $1 million house, essentially.
Yep.
Yeah. Because pictures don't disappoint. If done right, they will not disappoint.
But sometimes they can.
Well, sometimes,
Not with Amir, though. Not with Amir.
No, not with Amir.
Yeah.
No, never. We're talking with an expert here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know what Emerson and I talked about in the past. We use Adobe. Shout out to Adobe, because they provide all these different apps. Mm-hmm. We have Photoshop, right? We have Lightroom. That's my combination there. If you want to do video, Premiere Pro. Mm-hmm. But obviously there's other ones you can do, like DaVinci Resolve and all that. But I'm guessing here you use Photoshop and Lightroom specifically for this, right?
Yeah, so if I'm doing like the basic editing, I'll open up Lightroom, I'll apply the preset, because that having a preset definitely saves a bunch of time, and it also helps to maintain a consistency in your work.
Always make a preset, guys.
Yeah. Build your brand, save it as a preset. Use those presets.
Okay, one more time. Use it. Okay.
Use it.
You were saying?
Yeah, so I'll go in the Lightroom, I'll load the presets, because the preset does a few of the same things, right? It boosts shadows, reduces some highlights, and reduces a little bit of the orange and yellows, because when it comes to different color casts, that tends to be the most common color, like for casting. So I'll do slight desaturations of orange and yellows while still keeping everything looking like rich and saturated. Yeah. Nice. And so I'll do that. And then if I have, let's say, a request to do certain photoshopping, like let's say an agent wants to remove an object, I'll open up Photoshop, use remove tool, use clone stamp. And hey, now we have generative AI, so that should make things easier.
Yeah, it helps sometimes, right? Have you dabbled with AI?
I have not dabbled with the generative AI yet, but
would you ever?
I want to. I just don't really have any photos that I need to.
Well, yeah. See, that's what I thought too. And then and I remember I had this shoot with the model. We did it in the lake, and then there was a good sky in the top, and I said, you know what? Let's make a little Pandora, right? And if you guys don't know the reference, if you watched Avatar, you know what I mean. Basically, I just did a generative fill of Jupiter or a planet or whatever in the sky.
Oh, wow.
And then I changed the blending mode to screen. And yeah, you got Pandora right there, and the model's looking at it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's
incredible.
Oh, yeah. But there's so much stuff you can do. I was just playing around here. Yeah. But you use AI sometimes with the real estate, right? Or do you just use it as like an emergency situation?
I use it sometimes just depending on the complexity of the edit, because I found that in some cases it's actually easier to use generative AI because it's quicker. So let's say if I need to remove something, and if it might take extra time to do like manual clone stamping, then I'll just whip up generative AI, wait for the results, and just go with that.
And what about, if any, like enhancements, like enhancing the actual images, or like retouching and enhancing, if you ever do any of that?
In terms of retouching, I guess object removal, would fall under that for real estate photography. If you want to remove certain things, right? Like objects, cords. Because I know I have some agents who just, for some reason, they cannot stand seeing like electric cords anywhere. So they'll ask, "Hey,"
agents that are like that too.
Yes. Yeah. So they'll ask, "Hey, can you please remove this and whatnot?" So yeah. So I'll do that, and then I also we haven't touched on it yet, but I'll also do some like virtual staging if a agent requests it.
Interesting. Okay.
So for that, what I do is I use a software called applydesign.io. It's a website that you can access, and it has like a large catalog of different furniture pieces, and they're like 3D modeled with like high resolution renders. And what's nice about it too is that this program essentially looks at the lighting source, right, or like the lighting levels of each photo, and it uses that to adjust light cast and shadow cast of the furniture, which I thought is pretty smart, for to do that, because it helps to make it look more natural. And so I'll go in there, I'll go through the catalog, I'll share it, I'll say, "Hey, let me know out of these furniture pieces, what do you want to use," right? So I go in there, or I share the list with them, they pick, and then I just go to town. I put the furniture everywhere, and then I send it back.
I can just picture of what that would look like, and it blows my mind.
It is.
I know, and then this app, I haven't even heard of it.
This is the future, man.
Yeah, how do you find these apps?
It's a handy thing. You may have heard of it. It's called Google. Right?
Shout out to Google.
Damn.
Yeah, because
wow.
But yeah, because
y'all guys don't see it, but I sense some sass here. But I think it was well deserved because Google.
But no sass here really, because I've used Google for like basically looking up different questions that I have, right? Like and like for researching different products, because I go in asking, okay, what's the best product for virtual staging, for this or that, things like that. And that's how I learned about Apply Design. It's relatively cheap for business purposes. It's like $10 a photo. Oh, and nice. You can pretty much make unlimited revisions to it. Interesting. So especially if you say you do staging, right? And then an agent gives you feedback saying, "Hey, can you adjust this? Can you change that?" Well, you can go back into the platform and you won't have to pay to do a revision.
I see. And so when it comes to actually making the, I know you said, so you talk with the real estate agents, but
right.
So how does it work? Do you communicate mostly with them or the property owner or both? Because then maybe each wants something. When it comes to actually making the product, making sure you make it look luxurious, right? The real estate agent wants to make it look like it's $1 million, like you said.
Right.
But does a property owner ever have a say in any of that? Or do they ever demand something or require they ask for something?
Well, typically you speak with the real estate agent when you're talking about the goal for the photo shoot, right? Like what you want captured, how you want it captured. I know I've had some times where the property owner will talk to the agent and request certain things, and then the agent would then just let me know, just what they want. But typically when you're on a shoot, the agent is who you're usually having that communication with.
Wow. Okay. That makes sense. Which I kind of figured because I assumed that the owner might say something like, hey, I don't want it like this and that, but they're the owner, they're going to sell it to someone else.
Right.
Which I understand now. Yeah. But when it comes to those clients, is like the interaction, the communication, is it always good? Or was there ever a moment where you're like, oh, or the client was just really, really bad at not only communication, but also making sure that, make it feel like, you have your way of doing it. But if they ever try to,
oh, Lord,
how do I put this?
Right.
Save me, Emerson. How do I put this?
I don't.
Okay. So
I don't know where you're going with this.
Okay. Yeah. I try to find a really positive spin on this, but I'm just gonna say it. Okay. Are there ever moments where your clients just feel like they're not really agreeing to the agreement that you guys agreed on? Should I rephrase that?
I don't know.
So of all the clients you worked with, are there any negative experiences that you've had? Maybe where they didn't abide by the contract or kind of, butted into your business and so on.
Right. Well, I will say that for the mass majority of my clients, I haven't had any problems with them. They've all been relatively kind, very happy with my work, But I will say there is a particular client, who I shall not name, who is kind of the polar opposite. A client that's kind of particular about certain things, pretty anxious, complains a lot, always.
We've all had that. Yeah, we've all experienced that.
Yeah, just asking, why is it like this? Why is it like that? And of course, as a real estate photographer, right? Basically, my job is to go there and shoot the property as it is, because essentially it's the client's responsibility to make the property look the way they want it, stage it the way they want. So anything that relates to that, I can't really help with that. And so I've had that. And then the same person basically has had cases where they'll complain about something like, well, the picture isn't wide enough, even though I'll say, well, I have a wide angle lens here. Like, did you not see it? Things like that.
LOL.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but what I think happens is that this particular person likes to look for certain things wrong, because sometimes at the end of certain, like, I'll just say feedback, they try to get discounts.
Oh,
and so, yeah. And I'll say this applies to portraiture as well. But, when you're shooting a property or shooting anything really, you tell the client, hey, I'm going to shoot with you, or I'm going to shoot, whatever you want at the best of my ability. Though I can't really guarantee you'll be 100% satisfied with everything, but you can be assured that I will try my best, right? And, if, let's say there's something you don't like about them, then it's unfortunate, sorry about that, but no refunds.
Yeah, that's a big one. Something to remember, no refunds, guys. Because clearly, I know for us, you and I, like, we have our certain set of rules. We have a certain set of business tactics and all that, and the way we do things. Like, obviously, like, if we get paid and then to do what we do best, it's like would you ever go through with a whole refund? Like, but if you
I've had people ask for a refund before when I was charging. Well, I used to charge like all the time, but now I'm doing mostly collabs. And when I was doing stuff, when I was doing photography for income, and I would send them their photos, they're all like, I don't like the way this looks. And I'm all like, this is my branding. Did you not take the time to look at my portfolio and see if you even want to work with me, or did you just see photographer and thought I can just edit anything the way you wanted to? That's not how I operate. I have a brand to keep going out there, and I'm not going to change up my brand for one person. So I think people need to do research, and also people need to realize no photographer is perfect.
Right.
Even our favorite photographers are still out here learning.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're all still learning. I mean, if you guys ever grew up with Hannah Montana, she said nobody's perfect.
Oh my gosh,
it's true. It's true. Are you gonna you're gonna tell me I'm wrong? Like,
you're not wrong. But
nobody's
Montana,
perfect,
bro.
Okay, and that's how you learn that beautiful lesson growing up. Nobody's perfect. Okay, but moving on, one thing I think we should talk about, or you should mention, is something that not a lot of people, I guess, think about.
Right,
but the legal part. Legal copyrights and so on, all the aspects of it.
Right.
People should be aware of it, like property releases and all that. So how exactly do you go about doing that?
Well, basically, when it comes to my photos, right, I give clients you could say, like, a non-transferable right to use their photos for advertising, any whatever promotion they want, for putting on flyers, their website, social media, things like that. So I typically don't. I would say I don't necessarily care much about how they use it, as long as they don't just mess it up with a bunch of like filters or or just make it look completely unpresentable. Because I wouldn't want someone to right. Because I know sometimes agents, they might see photos and they say, "Ooh, who took this photo?" And then, they'll say, hey, so-and-so took this, right? So I wouldn't want to run into a situation where someone just completely unbeautifies my photos and then says, oh, hey, Amir took these. And like, gotcha.
Peach and I had a discussion
about
this. Peach and I actually had a discussion about this on, I think, was it 2 episodes ago, about people when we send pictures out and they put Instagram filter on it.
Yeah, we did.
So that's funny you bring that up.
Yeah, but it's just like so ridiculous that if they just still do that, because I had one guy, he did it to a photo I took of him and his girlfriend, and then and you know what's funny about that? He put the filter, knowing it, and then in the comment and the caption, he's like, "Sorry, Alex." I'm like, what?
It's just crazy how they do it with real estate, though.
Yeah.
Well, they would re-edit it a certain way to their liking. I just think that, then why pay all that money?
Yeah, no, because if I look at a picture of
do all that stuff just for you to come and just ruin the picture.
Yeah, if you see, if you take a good photo of the inside and then there's at sunset or something, you can see the rays of sun coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Why would someone need to alter that? Turn it blue or something. There's no point in doing that.
Exactly.
It's as good as it is.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and then also when it comes to copyright, although I believe it's automatic, but you essentially always hold the rights to the photos, and you want to make it clear that your use of photos is not permitted unless a client actually pays for it. Because otherwise you might have a situation where, an agent, for some reason, they'll just go ahead, right? You give them the photos before they pay, they'll put them online, and then you're just forever chasing them for your check. It's like, hey, could you just pay me anytime soon, please? Yeah. And then you just go missing in action. But that's where having certain management systems come in handy, because when it comes to real estate photography, I actually have a platform that's called Ario. And what it is, it's essentially a photo upload / client management platform. So what you can do is you can upload photos, right, to this platform. And then you can also set up things like scheduling. So that way, if an agent wants to speak or schedule a photo shoot with you, right, then they don't necessarily have to call you up and say, hey, I'm interested in a photo shoot. Can you do it at this time, at this day, at this place? Instead, what you can do is you can set it up to where you can make it like a marketplace. So that way an agent can go directly to your link. They can enter the address, the day and time that they prefer, and any other notes or things that they just want you to be aware of, right? And they do that, and you get a notification saying that so-and-so ordered photography at this day and time. And that's it. Because I know with agents, they want things to be quick, right? As I'm sure Emerson, agents basically, they want to list their photos yesterday, right?
They're on a time crunch most of the time.
Yeah, pretty much they're obligated, especially by contracts where they have to list at a certain day.
Exactly.
So they pretty much want to make sure that they have a way of just ordering photos as soon as possible. And if you have a platform like that, or you can even use something like HD Photo Hub, where they can go on and schedule a shoot without really having to contact you first, then it just makes things so much more convenient. And what's also really great about these platforms is that you can essentially lock downloads until they pay. So when they go onto their portal, because they can make an account where they can have access to all their listings and things like that.
Yeah.
So you can pretty much put the photos on a portal. When they open it, they see previews of the photos, right? Sometimes they might be watermarked, and they'll pretty much be instructed to make a payment in order to unlock the ability to download the photos. So with that means that an agent is going to be more persistent in actually paying you, because they know that, they have to do it in order to get their photos. So if you're getting into real estate photography, that's definitely a good thing to look into, because it reduces a lot of headaches. But I will say, just going more onto the copyright issue, there is one thing that particular client that I was talking about, somehow they did it. I have to look into what they've done. But this person apparently did not want to pay for the photos because for some reason they thought that it wasn't like the room size wasn't large enough. Even though I said, this is the lens I've been using, like the 14 millimeter, forever. Like this is how like my photos have always looked. Why are you just randomly complaining about the width of the photo? This is essentially,
why are you complaining?
Yeah, this is essentially how I've always shot. What are you talking about? And so I just told them nicely but bluntly, right? Hey, I'm sorry you're unsatisfied, but if you want any of these photos, you're going to have to make the payment. And if you make the payment, then you'll get the original high-res files. So I did that thinking, okay, this person will eventually pay, right? I'll say about a few days later, I noticed this person hadn't made a payment or clicked to download the photos, right? So I'm wondering, like what's going on? So I had a hunch for some reason to look up the listing that I did photos for. And I went on Zillow just to open it up. And the first image that I see is a extremely low res thumbnail size.
Oh no!
Image, yeah, like image of like one that I virtually staged, and so somehow this, so apparently somehow this client, I'm guessing they right clicked save as on the thumbnail. and then they downloaded it, and I'm like,
I laugh at that.
Like, what the
That's
heck?
hilarious.
Yeah,
I wasn't even all that mad at that point. I was just perplexed. I was like, and I was a little amused. I'm like, really? Because especially because when you look at the other photos, there's a clear difference between the one that they downloaded the thumbnail for and the ones that have the original, high res size to them. So I contacted this person and I said, hi, I noticed that you uploaded this image that you did not pay for. Take it down, please, because it's against my policy and it infringes on copyright. And if you don't take it down, I'm going to have to contact your broker.
Oh.
So that was crazy. That was literally the first time I've ever had that happen. Which I honestly, I didn't think anyone would even have the gall to even attempt that, because why would you just show off a low res thumbnail size? It's completely blurry. Like you can barely make out any details.
Oh my god!
Why would you do that?
Yeah, why would you
know?
do that?
So yeah, I'm still basically dealing with that. So we'll see how it goes, because really, as far as I know, this person doesn't really have much of a legal standing, and I could pretty much report her, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be nice. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to do what I can to resolve the issue.
Yeah.
And, I'll just have to see where it goes from there.
As you should.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And that's where, having things like terms of service can be good, because at the very least, it helps to deter certain agents from being dishonest. Because pretty much with real estate photography, you don't necessarily have standard contracts, or it's not very typical to have like a release in the same sense as you would for like a portrait shoot. But you might have like terms of service on like your order form, on like your invoice, or on your website, just to make it clear. So that way, if anyone attempts something, you'll say, excuse me, these are my terms. Don't you dare.
No, that makes sense. Sense. I mean, aside from that,
Right.
What would you say are interesting differences and similarities with portraits and real estate? Because I know you've done both.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. For those who don't know, Amir is actually, not only is he a real estate photographer, but he also takes some nice portraits.
Amazing portraits.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what would you say? It's like, similarities, differences, or, if you maybe one's more fun, the other one's more, more business type and so on.
Well, I will say when it comes to real estate photography, the process, I would say when, the property's ready, when the agents and the homeowners make sure that everything looks nice or whatnot, it tends to be a bit more relaxed, especially when you're going to a property where the agent and owner are not there and they just give you like a key to go.
Yeah. And
basically it can be very relaxing, because you can just basically go in, like put in your headphones and just cruise on through the house uninterrupted, shoot, the different angles inside and outside, and and have a good time. And of course, with portraiture, it's more involved, because you're always communicating with, your subject and whatnot, to try to get them in their best light. And, sometimes with real estate photography, the agents will sometimes be there along with the homeowner. And so they might make a few suggestions on certain things. And yeah, pretty much when it comes to interactions with clients in real estate photography, you definitely want to be, I wouldn't necessarily say upbeat, where you have to be like very smiling, like, hi, I'm so happy to work with you, but just be friendly, be attentive, especially if it's your first time working with the agent, because that first impression really matters. Because if they really enjoy the service that you brought, then they're likely to hire you again.
Yeah, that is for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then I guess just briefly on things like techniques, because with like portrait photography, right? Typically you're working with shallower depth of fields because the model's the subject of it, right? So you have a shallow depth of field or whatnot. You might have some artistic shots where you might go more environmental, but usually it's always the model that's the subject. Where with real estate photography, you pretty much want to capture everything. So what that means is having a much larger depth of field. So you want to maybe shoot it like f8 to make sure that everything's in focus, and just shoot wide always. Unless you have a request to do like certain feature shots where you might zoom in a bit to maybe highlight a certain feature like a fireplace or something else that could be a selling point for the property. But yeah, in most cases, you're shooting wide with small aperture, essentially.
Yeah, see, I usually stick with the whole portraits or shooting people, yeah, because like real estate is something like I could try it, but I could never get into it. I don't know about you. How do you feel, Emerson?
It's a whole different ball game when it comes to that, and I'm just so set in my ways. I don't think I would have the time or the energy to learn something just totally.
That does not mean it's not interesting.
That does not mean it's exactly what Peach said.
Yeah, because I don't know. Kudos to you, because there's so much in there that I don't even know if I could just deal with. But the pictures always turn out amazing. At least from what I've seen in different like real estate flyers and so on. Like I assume yours are probably like equally fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I strive for.
Yep.
Okay, so Emerson and I, like, I don't know about you, Emerson, but I learned so much today. Like, holy bleep. My mind is blown. So, Amir, thank you. Yes, thank you again, for taking the time, coming over here and then talking to us about all this.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm glad I could come to share my knowledge.
Yeah, no, like, hopefully I can have you over again, because we never know what we're going to talk about. So many topics out there.
Yeah,
but
I'd be looking forward to it.
Sweet. So, yeah, this has been another great episode of the Phot-Bros Podcast, and we will be back soon.
We'll see you next episode, guys. Peace.
See you later.
Thank you for listening to the Phot-Bros Podcast. Feel free to follow us on Instagram at Phot-Bros Podcast and follow us on X/Twitter at Phot-Bros.